Hello and welcome to an episode of Casual Friday. It is Sunday, we're not going to gaslight you, but we're still getting a show out. That's my mistake, I'm sure Don will kick the shit out of me for it. But here we are nonetheless. As always, the show is brought to you by Woo. Links available in the description below. Don, it feels like we've been at 60k for 60 years. I'm so tired of this price handle, and can you just get us out of it? Either become the main character again or keep fighting people on Twitter as you have been recently. I don't know what the necessary catalyst is at this point to give us a bit of a move.
Not even fighting is helping, so I don't know, man.
I mean, you tried, right?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm
God knows
trying.
you've been trying.
No, I'm trying to slay the main characters of this cycle,
Oh dear.
just to make the price move,
I
but
mean, you
it's
were the
not
main
working.
character for a bit.
Oh, I mean, it depends. Yeah, I still get people like fucking meme guys that like at me in like random memes that have like 10 million market cap, and they're like, "We're gonna slay Don," and I'm like, "What the fuck? I don't even know what the fuck you're trading." It's actually been quite funny, but yeah, no, I've been hard at work, but it's not ending the range. It's just prolonging it.
We always complain about Twitter like two grumpy old men yelling at clouds, but I think in my in our 7+ year tenure, this has to be the worst it's ever been, right?
Oh, for sure,
And
yeah.
for a multitude of reasons, like the average level of discourse is terrible. The average sort of content that gets put out and gets engagement has basically zero to do with anything resembling real trading. And it's all sort of thinly veiled attempt at pump and dumps, raising for pre-sales that end up getting scammed, so-called, community mobilization, when really it's just a group of people waiting to dump on each other, pocket watching, main character slaying, rubbing shoulders with grifters and scammers, sucking off celebrities who come in to do their usual once per cycle money extraction and carrying water for bad faith actors, just hating each other in general for any reasons, real or imagined. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's wild. That my biggest gripe with it is that no one's actually like posting anything good anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Like basically, you have these like the meme guys, the trench guys, right? Like there's a bunch of people that got really lucky or like skilled, whatever, doesn't really matter, with like one or two memes, and now they're kind of pretending that it was all skill, and then they're just getting allocations to like other memes. And basically dump that on whoever the fuck is willing to buy it. And then there's just the older people, like the people that have been around for a while, that just don't post anymore because, I mean, why the fuck would you? Like, it's very, very toxic right now, just generally. And then, in my opinion, there's just like the rest of the bad actors just doing whatever they do best, which is just maximum money extraction out of the market. On the backs of their followers. And then there's like 2 or 3 people that actually still trade, that post stuff. But the market's also not really giving that much. And then it's just like 100 people just lapping that they're trading and just backseating whoever is left that actually trades, right? Which is the most tiresome shit to deal with. Like when you have a bunch of backseat traders. Just telling you what you have done or not. It's wild. It's wild. The quality has been just generally declining. And I think that's going to continue, honestly. I don't think it's going to get materially better. I think CT is basically like a watered down version of itself now, where it's just basically like we've hit the masses, and now it's less about like the culture, the community, and more about like just being entertained on there. So I think it's just a place where like bored people, like if the market is boring, people go and just do whatever the fuck, like just post dumb shit to entertain themselves. I think that's basically the main way that Twitter is going to be used in the future, like crypto Twitter, just like basically like Reddit, like a little bit of a better version of Reddit. Because I mean, if anyone's ever been on the crypto Reddit, it's fucking horrendous, but they're all having fun anyway, doing like posting dumb shit. And I think it's pretty much Twitter now. Like the discourse has fallen so low that you can compare it to Reddit now.
Well, that's pretty sad, right? That's a bit of an indictment because, I mean, historically at least, there's not been a better place to genuinely learn about the market and how to trade and think about risk, etc. And you'd have very successful, very tenured traders sharing stuff like mostly for free. and the monetization stuff wouldn't be that offensive, and the amount of bad faith scammery. I think one of the most distinct changes is that line has become super blurred, and all people have become super accepting towards it. Which is to say, in the past, you're like, okay, this is like crypto Twitter, guys, most people are more or less good faith, sharing information, sharing trades. Everyone is doing that at the same time, so you're not going to go and like super troll someone who gets something wrong. I said super like 50 times. You know what I mean? There's like an undertone of good faith and hey, we're all in this together trying to figure this shit out from a trading point of view. Whereas now, and then the scammers, so to speak, and the bad faith actors were in their own separate corner essentially, and that
they didn't have
dividing line
any
was super
crossover.
clear. Yeah, and now we've got some shitty Marvel episode or movie or franchise at this point where all the shitty scamming characters have essentially assimilated into, well, not even assimilated and to some extent taken over core crypto Twitter, or reached a point where sort of live not in harmony but live in one roof, under one roof, and people are just not, there's no self-policing. Not there's ever been that to a great extent, but like basically no one gives a shit anymore. That's the most I guess concise way to summarize it. Like no one cares, especially with meme coins. Everyone sort of realized that hey, there are no rules to this. Like in the past, we used to self-police with certain market caps of coins you would share. You would look at market cap to like follower ratio, and all this sounds like super foreign to 2023, 24 traders, I'm sure. But this was kind of it was a system that was imperfect, but at least people more or less adhered to it. Whereas now, all of that went out the window. It's like, hey, we've got meme coins. You don't even need centralized exchange listings anymore. There's no sort of market cap requirement. Absolutely nothing. Just sort of get rich as quickly and as aggressively as you can. And everyone's doing it at the same time, so no one's going to, throw stones from glass houses, essentially. And I just, it's ended up in a rough place. I hope we end up making a future episode where we reflect on this and say, hey, remember crypto Twitter got really bad, and then this essentially subsided, we moved on to something else, and the quality basically returned. But at the moment, I feel like once we abandoned all pretense of there's a fundamental difference between good projects, bad projects, or like scam projects and not so scam projects. We got rid of that completely, perhaps in a fashion that was too extreme. And B, the whole idea of follower to market cap ratios, or hey, you have like market impact on this coin, maybe you shouldn't tweet about it, or like you're veering on bad faith if you're more or less using your audience for exit liquidity, and all these kind of unspoken and customary rules that they've all essentially fucking disappeared. And now it's like, it doesn't matter, post whatever you want, tweet whatever you want. If someone makes money at some point and so much of it's happening at the same time, no one cares. Just come in, take what's yours, what you feel entitled to, and move on. And that's just not led to a particularly nice environment, especially if you can speak to this, but if you're like a trader who isn't doing like meme coin cabal stuff, pump and dump, fake trench pre-sale shit, you're having like one of the worst times of all, because A, the market kind of sucks. At least there are windows where it's interesting to trade, but generally the market kind of sucks. And B, the vast majority of people getting engagement and participating on crypto Twitter are the so-called trench meme coin cabal types, and so they have zero interest and zero understanding, I'm sure those two things are related, in like actual trading. And for them, everything is just like a super binary, you're on this team or you're on that team, and then bad faith, malign, slight, strawman the so-called opposition, and you're just shadow boxing bears while sitting in a Telegram channel with your so-called friends who all just want to wait for a slightly higher market cap to dump on you. So I don't know what you think of that summary, but I
think that's pretty damn accurate. Yeah, it's basically like a bunch of people that don't trade criticizing people that do trade. And I mean,
so criticizing you basically, right?
To be fair, honestly, like I get it, right? Like meme coins have been the hot thing to trade, and it's been the one place that actually has had good volatility, not only bad volatility. When you look around the altcoin market, just generally, altcoins have just been shit. Which, I mean, meme coins have at least had some success along the way, right? So I get why you would want to be one of those, but I don't really understand the whole crossover thing where it's like, why do you care? Like, as one of these people, why do you care what the trader is doing, right? Because it's not really the same. It's not like there should be much crossover. I think like if you're trench kind of meme coin kind of guy, the most important thing is being in the right groups and finding the right people to dump on. And if you're a trader, that's not necessarily what you're doing, right? So I think it's just a little bit of a mismatch between like what people think trading actually is and what trading actually is at the end of the day. And yeah, people get upset over it. It's okay. It's okay. Like people, this is gonna, like, I think this is a phase, but I think that whole culture that has been brought to Twitter, that is gonna stick around, right? Like, I think there's a bunch of big accounts that basically the only thing that they do is just shit talk others, and those are the ones that are getting like some of the highest engagement on the platform now. And I generally think that that is the attitude that is kind of wanted on Twitter now. Like, and I'm not sure if this is because of things that Elon changed, but this is kind of the vibe on Twitter just generally. Like, you hate, you do well, you don't, and I mean, you have to do, yeah, no one cares, or you have to do something very exceptional, right? So, for me, when I look at Twitter, it's kind of like a platform for hate more so than anything else. And I've seen a bunch of people capitalize on it, and yeah, that's why I think it's getting so miserable. And people don't really realize, right? Because it's fun. Like, you see someone that you've seen on Twitter or whatever get dragged through the mud, and that's fun to watch, right? You're like, like this big guy is getting, this big guy is getting it. But what you don't realize is that basically, like, I mean, for example, Kobe's been dragged. Like, people don't realize how much shit he's getting. Recently, like, pretty much every time he's mentioned, people are like, he's washed up, he sucks, blah blah blah. And I don't know where that's coming from, but it's kind of like you're ruining the platform for everyone else, right? Because I mean, he's pretty clearly, like, his opinion is like quite accurate, and the stuff he says has quite a bit of value, whereas the people that shit talk him have zero value at all. But what you're gonna do with doing this kind of stuff is just pushing him out of the platform, and then you have one less guy that is worth coming onto the platform for, and then that problem keeps going. And I think it's kind of like, unless something fundamentally changes at Twitter, I don't think that's gonna stop. So that's just how it's gonna be from, like, in the next cycles. I think if the market would nuke, it would stop for a while, but it would come back as quickly as it left the moment it bounced. So
it's like a culture shift for you, huh?
Yeah. I think it's like a culture shift, and that's just kind of like crypto is now like part of the American hate cycle, is what I would call it. Because honestly, like, I mean, the same thing exists in Europe.
Famous sociologist DonAlt.
No.
Give me
but
the citation, bro. Where's the published paper? The American hate cycle.
I mean, I kind of feel like the whole, like, and I'm not saying this like a bad or good thing or whatever, but I'm saying, like, I think like the whole two-party system that we're having going on in America right now, where it's like the Democrats think that the Republicans are pure evil, and the other way around, right, is basically kind of like turning a lot of this stuff into just like pure hate driven, and just kind of garbage. And I think that's kind of where a lot of this negativity is coming from, because people are getting it every single day on all sides. And I mean, Twitter is mainly American. We do have it in Europe too, but to a lesser extent. So that's kind of like how I look at it. I think it's a culture shift, and unless something changes drastically, I don't think it's going to revert back.
Yikes. Well, I think culture shift is correct. I'm not sure if it's like hate bipartisan sort of at its core. I think it might be more sort of US influencer culture spilling over into crypto Twitter, which is more like substantive, nuanced arguments are boring and don't matter, but like in your face drama, rile up, doesn't matter if it's accurate, doesn't matter if it's good faith or bad faith, doesn't matter if it's nuanced or not, just sort of like the in your face headline drama, this person said this about that, kind of basically, yeah, like tabloid influencer livestream fails type of culture. That's what it feels like, more so than like a, I don't know, core visceral disagreement, hatred type of thing.
Oh, I mean, it's both, I think.
Both?
Because
great. 2 for 1.
yeah, because I think like we do have this whole like bears versus bulls thing. Like, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, it's the same setup basically. We have this bears versus bulls. We have like these kind of like this cheerleading for teams, whatever. This is very inherent to markets anyway. So this is kind of the crossover between like the new TikTok culture, where everything you say has to be like snappy and edgy, and like people don't have the attention span to read through something. So it's just has to be like invoking emotions, and then you also have this whole like two teams, right? And that leads to an environment that is quite aggressive. Yeah, it's just how it is.
Well, have you considered to stop bitching, stop being a pussy, and all the other normal responses to two men talking about whether Twitter is fun or not?
Yeah, we really should. I mean, honestly, the reason why like we even discussing it is because it was fucking great, right? Like
Yeah.
the back in the day, and I mean, this is like it's literally making my trading like not using Twitter as much is kind of like making my trading a little bit worse, because back in the day I would always have Twitter open and kind of like scroll through it while I was doing stuff like in the market, and then the news, like some news would hit, and I would be among the first people to see it, right? Like it would be posted on Twitter and I would see it in the first 10, 15, 20 seconds. Nowadays I'm like I check Twitter every now and then and I go through sprees, but then I'm like, okay, I'm done with it now, and I don't have it open on the side because it just would depress me. So like for a trader, this was the best resource that you could have, in my opinion. Like the whole like crypto Twitter thing was very, very concise. People were very quick. Nowadays it's a little bit less so. Like one, it's less quick, and two, like who the fuck would want to spend like all the day on crypto
Right.
Twitter?
It also got outsourced to a bunch of news trading. That news trading bot meta took a lot of
Yeah.
that away. But also, there's just like so much more noise now in general. Like if you're in a trade or you're looking for ideas or scanning your watch list or whatever else, in the past you could bring up Twitter and you'd be able to find at least a lot of interesting leads, is how I'd describe it, right? Like even if it's not straight up in your face trade ideas, entry, target, stop, there'd be a lot of interesting leads for maybe like, we have like the order flow schizos before it got super popular. We'd be talking about some, anomalous prints and behavior on a specific perp contract or whatever. You'd have like the relative strength spaghetti guys always throwing out like performance, whatever. On chain in certain windows was useful as well for that type of shit. The standards TA guys, posting levels and so on and so forth, you could at least sort of investigate some of those tweets and follow, see if there's an interesting trade idea that fits into your own system, just from the fact that active traders were actively posting their views on the market. And you don't have to copy trade them or strongly agree or strongly disagree to like get into a position, but they'd act like sort of, highlights or beacons to be like, hey, there's potentially something interesting going on here. Whereas now, if you scroll through Twitter and you're looking for trade ideas, I mean, good luck. Most of the time, the amount of like actual trades and analysis, I feel like is an all-time low, and most of it at this point feels like either just like TikTok style live stream fails, influencer rage bait, or it's straight up just pump and dumping Solana meme coins, like very explicitly. And also, I still feel like a lot of people are late or hung over to like early meme coin season, where they think that all of these meme coins are just like fair launches and this is a response to VCs and these are like organic communities and there's just a lot of skill in picking out, what's a good meme and so on and so forth. We had basically had a quantum leap in meme coin launches, and they're just as cabally, if not worse, than the VC coins that they were created to criticize in the first place. Like there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is there's like a much clearer insidery system nowadays with meme coins than even sort of 6 months ago. Like the whole cabal thing is kind of real. The fair launch thing is a fantasy, like now compared to when this thing just started kicking off on Solana. You're getting very, VC style influencer, basically meme coin launches, pre-sales, etc. You see the same names popping up in the same coins. Like everything that meme coins were supposed to be a response to and a critique of, they've now become a part of, because as always there was money to be made in basically the professionalizing unfair launches.
Yeah.
And I just feel like a lot of people are still very optimistic about meme coins and, oh well, this is different, look, the VC coins are shit, this is like organic and natural, etc. Like I think that was true for a certain period of time, but I also really think if you still believe that, your information is stale. It's just as bad, if not worse, in many, even the majority of cases, than the same VC coins that they were supposed to criticize. And that's without even mentioning the fucking extractive celebrity stuff. I'm even talking like more or less mainstream crypto Twitter stuff. You're not seeing it on your feed by accident or organically anymore.
Yep.
There's like a very professional sort of systematic machinery behind it now, as opposed to fun community, try the tech, organic, whatever. Like those days died very, very quickly as soon as people realized that more insidery equals more money for the insiders.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's just how it is. Yeah, the notion that this is not like this is fair, and that that there's no VCs taking advantage of this is just ridiculous at this point. I think like it's not the VCs like the traditional ones. It's just a bunch of other people in Discords and Telegram.
Exactly.
And yeah, like I said at the beginning, there's a bunch of groups. Basically, the people that are known for meme coin trading that get early allocations for other coins that they then promote. Which, I mean, what would you name that, right? That's scummy to me. And that's pretty much like the VCs, only that the VCs actually have to kind of they have to tell people that they invested and that they have like a vested interest. These people, they're just breaking all the laws, don't really give a fuck. Yeah, this is just what crypto does, right? Like something comes up organically, and then people see that there's money to be made, and then they just like it turns into a perverse version of it every single time. Like we had the VC meta where I think at least at the start, like I mean, obviously there's people that are like, oh, can make money out of this, but just generally, like there was a lot of people in the early VC days that was just like into crypto, right? And they were not necessarily like, oh, I need to value extract this much, that much, whatever. The early VCs oftentimes were early crypto participants.
Yeah, they were pretty ideological. You know, they just
Yes.
straight up wanted to fund stuff they wanted to see get built because of
Yes.
a version of the future they genuinely believed in.
And then people saw them make a shitload of money, and then it just kind of kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then that meta comes to an end, and then you have the meme thing where someone just wants to make a funny coin, and keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then you have the same thing with literally everything, like the ICOs too. Like people were like, "Oh, let's start something that is something somewhat fair, right? Like a way to raise money from people that is just not as stupid as the traditional way." And it started off as that, and then it turned into maximum value extraction in 2017, 18, and then that meta nuked, and it's just kind of funny seeing it because this is kind of what we do as an industry, right? We pick something up and then we just put it, we take it and then we just maximize the value extraction, and then we toss it away, and then the next thing comes on. It's wild to see, and every single cycle we have something else.
Yeah, and every single cycle, that current thing, you know, its supporters really start to believe that it is the thing. You know, this is like the final version. It's all gonna. This one is sticky, basically, and it never is. It wasn't with DeFi. It wasn't with yield farming. It wasn't with ICOs. Wasn't with IDOs. It was just There's no longevity in this type of process. Also,
and this is not to say that we're saying that memes are gonna go away for good. And this is something that people misunderstood completely about my post as well, when I was like, oh, I think like the memes have topped.
Right.
I wasn't saying like, hey, like there's not gonna be memes that are gonna be like multi-million billion market caps. I was just like, hey, the current ones we have and the stuff that is like getting thrown out now is just shit. And there's a good likelihood that all of that goes down. And then, I mean, at some point, you're going to have the next meme cycle and whatever. And
it was like a relative argument, right? Like, even by meme coin standards, these are dog shit clones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, that I can understand why people are willing to misinterpret that one. And also, it just feels like if you're like in the trenches meme coin guy, because that's become so large, it's basically spilled over into the so-called, you know, the classic centralized exchange trader archetype. Like, if you remember with NFTs, that separation was, I mean, there was some spillover, but it worked the other way around. It was the centralized exchange trading type started dabbling into NFTs and then dabbled out, like, okay, that was cool, that was fun, whatever. But the separation more or less stayed there, and it was just a different part of crypto Twitter, essentially. Whereas now it feels like the meme coin trench pump fun Solana side got so big that it essentially, the spillover happens in the other direction, and that basically becomes crypto Twitter. as opposed to crypto Twitter sort of dabbling in a different part of crypto Twitter. You know, the centralized exchange guys on one side, NFT guys on the other side. The centralized exchange guys kind of dabble NFTs and vice versa, and they're a bit like, whatever, I'll like stick to my lane. There's somewhat peaceful coexistence. Whereas now it feels more, it feels way more sort of adversarial. And this is crypto Twitter now. The centralized exchange types, you know, you're a washed up boomer idiot for trading this stuff that only moves 2%, and you know, crypto becomes synonymous with pump fun, meme coin, trench warfare, essentially.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily a step, well, an upgrade, essentially.
Yeah, we kind of went through this before with Binance, like with BNB, Binance Chain, whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
Where we had like a little bit of spillover, where retail was just like printing and printing on complete and utter dog shit like SafeMoon. I mean, I was just last cycle, right? And people made the exact same arguments back then as they're doing now. Of like, oh yeah, this is fair, it's good, easy to use, everyone can do this kind of stuff. And I mean, next cycle, right? Whenever this one is going to end, we're going to have a new chain and new kind of narrative and new coins that come up. And yeah, it's going to be the same, just different. Like a little bit different.
Like study OpenSea. Like study OpenSea and NFTs. That was like the best retail moat we've ever seen, I think.
Like actually, yeah, NFTs were actually great.
NFTs were great for that, but then fucking look at NFTs now, you know? Anyway, should we start the show, Don?
We should, and we should timestamp this and give it to people so they don't have to listen to our rambling.
I'm sure there's at least one person who enjoys it. Make yourselves known in the comments if you exist. Monthly close in 10 hours. It's a huge one, Don. It's pretty much the same monthly candle.
Oh, yeah.
How much time do we want to waste on the monthly? You know,
and
above 58k, fine.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 usual shit.
Yeah. I mean, this month is very likely to just close in between resistance and support, and that's shit. It is, and this is what I say every single time. We broke out and we didn't move, and that's not great, right? Like I said the same thing with the Solana breakdown, where I was like, hey, we broke down, but we didn't move. That's not good for the bears.
Mm-hmm.
And Solana has been like doing somewhat okay in the last few days, even though it technically broke down. And this is the same with Bitcoin, just in inverse, right? Like I don't like breakouts that don't do shit. Usually that's a bad sign, but it's still above support. So like the bearish argument is a hard one. Just the same as every other show we've made in the last few months.
Great. Fine. Won't torture the monthly then. The weekly is quite interesting. It's sort of trading around the lowest close in this entire consolidation at like 61k. I wanted to get an updated view on the weekly cluster that we discussed previously. I don't know if you had that entire red weekly of the 6th of May as the cluster, or just a green.
No, just a green.
Just a green.
Tiny boy. Yeah.
So with a weekly close that's shaping up like this, let's say it closes like right now, for example.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. Is this level still valid enough to be used next week? Which is to say, if we close below it and next week pushes up, or even just a close itself, would that be a close through support, or is it too kind of close to the level and you disregard it, look at something else, whatever?
No, I think this is quite bad. It basically needs to revert that entire red candle, otherwise it looks like shit.
Oh, okay. What about like closing through the upper boundary, like 63.1? Is that acceptable, or is it more of a clear this thing or get the fuck out?
As long as this candle, like this current candle, closes green, that'd be bullish. Like you have 10 hours to close this candle green. Okay. I think that'd be quite good. That's a nice setup because basically it wiped to the range low, yes. And but it held the close, so that wouldn't be too bad. But if it closes like this, like at 61.6 or whatever, anywhere around here, that would not be great in my opinion, because it's basically another support test, and even if it bounces at that point, I would expect it to kind of fizzle out and start just study 6k at that point. Like we had, like I think legit, like making the comparison between 6k and 60k is quite neat, and if we keep on doing this, it's a bouncing ball that bounces less and less and less. And this is actually, like, if you actually look at the weekly time frame, it's exactly what it looks like, right? Like it it went to 70K and then hit the floor at 60 and then bounced, but that bounce was kind of meh and made a lower high, and now we're back at 60. So like that's not great, but if it can close this week green, I think you can give it the benefit of the doubt for a while at least. Hope for a high low close and run with that. But if it doesn't, I think the weekly is clearly on the bearish side of things rather than the bullish side of things.
How does that affect, from like a practical trading system to whatever extent you still follow one, kind of weekly bias? So let's say we get a weekly close below, right? And then all those arguments come to fruition that, it's a weaker bounce, it's a close through the weekly cluster, which is level of support, etc., etc. What sort of practical implications does that have for your trading in the subsequent week? If we take like a really systematic approach, one example would be like, well, just fucking sell, basically. Either, just like loss of support, the systematic signal is close below equals sell, that's it, goodbye. Something more nuanced would be that sets the weekly bias. So then if I go on to the lower time frames, like daily bounces, 4-hour bounces, I expect, I sell those or cover those early if I'm trading them on the long side, etc. Like, so we're dealing with a pretty like unambiguous level, and we're going to get some sort of resolution on the closing basis. What sort of downstream implications from a practical trading point of view does a weekly bias carry for you nowadays?
I mean, just looking at this, right, and I do have a nice kind of 6K analogy again. And that was, do you remember Tone Vase shorting 6K?
Yeah, of course.
I was glorious. So Tone Vase used to be like one of the bigger crypto Twitter influencers. He had his own paid group, charged dumb amounts of money for it. Sold his own like indicator, whatever, for like 5,000 euros or something. Like it was a lot, especially back then, right? Like Bitcoin was trading at 6K and he was charging like 0.5 Bitcoin for you to come to watch him speak, that kind of shit, right?
I mean, the standard paid group multiplier used to be 0.1 BTC per month, if you remember.
Yeah,
2017, 0.1 BTC per month, get like a few hundred members, and then lose it all, as is often the case. Sorry, go on.
But basically, he was the most outrageous in the pricing department, right? But anyway, he famously, like, he was like, there's like my indicator is saying sell. I'm gonna sell here at 6K with a stop loss. I think it was like at 10K or something, and a target at like 3 or 4K, right? And everyone clowned him for it, and the market actually went up pretty much immediately afterwards. And he held and held and held, and at some point, this was on BitMEX back in the day, a BitMEX employee, because he's an American citizen, he was not allowed to trade on BitMEX. A BitMEX employee actually just closed his account because he was an American, and he saw like that trade was mentioned so often that he was just like, okay, fuck this guy, and closed the account. Anyway, he made zero money on that. The entire market dumped. So like, even if your higher time frame bias is right, if you're too early on that, there's a good chance that you're just not going to stick with it. So for me, just because we closed the week below that support level, I wouldn't necessarily just jump into a short straight away, but it would make me kind of look for, like, whenever I see weakness, I would just take advantage of it, which makes trading much easier, right? Like you have a bearish weekly setup and you see a rally, like a Sunday rally into like basically like a very thin move, and you're like, oh, hey, we have a high time frame bearish setup here. Let me just fade that because it's very likely that just full reverses, and I get a really good entry, right? So like that's how I would look at these things. It's not just, oh, we closed below support, we're still in the range, but let me just fucking short the range low. That's not necessarily how it goes, but it would more be like, oh, I see a setup here. Either the market rallied very thinly, or the market is showing weakness, like we had before the breakdown, right? When we got on the 20th of June on the daily chart, we had that up wick, and it ended up just being sailor buying. Like that was the end of sailor buying, and then we had a bunch of news come in, and the market was just very, very heavy. And at that point, you could see that the market was kind of like turning downwards, and there was really not that much, like the market wasn't hot enough to stop that bleed. So it was pretty likely that I was gonna go and actually just capitulate downwards. Stuff like that I would look out for. If I have a high time frame bias that is bearish, doesn't mean you just have to blindly short 100x leverage and run away. Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay,
anyway.
so it's just a context clue, basically. It's not like a systematic signal. It's more like if you're getting rallies count that align with the high time frame bias, that just kind of boosts the probability of those setups playing out.
Yeah, and I mean it makes trading easier. Basically, like you actually know exactly what you look for. Like when the weekly, and I think the weekly is the best time frame we have. The monthly is the best, but we get very very few setups. So like when you get a monthly setup, I think that's almost always worth just taking on its own. But the weekly time frame is the second best, and then you can just basically the moment you get like a strong signal on the weekly time frame, you can just basically take advantage of it on the lower time frames, and that will make your expectancy on the trades that you're taking much higher.
Do you size up if you have that type of bias, or how?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially if it aligns with my idea for the market.
Sure.
So for example, like I was bearish Solana at like 170-ish, and I saw the Solana meme coins nuking, and we had a high time frame set up on sold USD, as in like a lower high, all that kind of shit. And I was like, okay, this is an altcoin, and this is an altcoin, and it's a short, which both I don't like to do with size. But I was like, there's a lot of things going in my favor. One, I have a weekly bearish setup. Two, the Solana memes are just completely dying. Three, like there's a shitload of euphoria in the market, while also having a lot of kind of complacency at the same time. And all of that kind of makes me just size up a little bit more. And I think that's actually really important. People that play with static size, I think do it wrong. Because if you have like a really, really good setup and those don't come around that often, you really need to take advantage of it. And when you have not so good setups, like for example, right now where we're chilling at the range low, do you really want to like short the range low with size, even if you think it's going to break down? It's a little bit of a harder trade to make. But when you have like a really good setup at a really good level with really good confluence, I think you need to size up, take advantage of it, and then wait. Basically take normal other setups with less size until the next good setup comes around.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially because the alternative is, realistically, if you factor in execution costs, and if you don't have an edge, your average EV is barely above break even, you actually just lose money.
Yeah.
So and that's not good. So you need, and that's why I hate the saying you'll never go broke taking a profit or whatever. Because
that's exactly how you go broke.
That's empirically false, right? Like if you assume a certain rate of churn to just trading fees and also variance, the only thing that bails you out of bleeding out your account is those outsized wins, big wins in the high probability setups, which basically carry your trading account. And so if you're like static size, churn, and then you actually get a banger that should lift your balance, and instead you just basically cut it break even, or you take the first 15-minute resistance level and fucking get out of there, and take profit, paid myself because I lost the other two trades in a row. Just the life expectancy of your account at that point just goes down the shitter. Like you need something to break you through the zero edge, zero EV, but trading is expensive churn, and the only thing that can do that is actually letting your good setups play out. And you have to like let them play out and also size them appropriately. If you don't do those, then you just bleed out, essentially, as unlikely as that sounds. I think a lot of people in general underestimate trading fees. Like that shit will kill you.
Yes, over long enough period of time. Yeah, I generally think like the optimal kind of trading, like if you look at a P&L curve, right, of a trader, the optimal way it should look like is kind of like a rally and then like a downwards consolidation, like a flag kind of pattern, into another rally, into like a flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of
like
course.
you're supposed to hit big, and then you're supposed to kind of look for the next big hit while you lose money.
Yeah, you like take some licks, right?
Yeah, and then like it starts walking down, and then you have the next big win, right? And that's kind of like, that's the optimal. Obviously, that's not how it always goes, right? And I mean, sometimes you just have a run and it just keeps like only going up straight, or sometimes you just have like it's just not going that way and it just keeps going lower. Shit happens. But what people do instead is they kind of have these small win, small win, small win, small win, big loss.
Yes.
And then it's the exact opposite, right? Where it slowly crawls up and then there's a big line to lower. And that's, I think, if you see that in like a P&L screenshot, I mean, that's basically how not to trade. But that's how people want to trade, right? You want to take these small wins over and over and over again. But what you don't realize is that it sets you up for like a major loss down the road.
Yes.
And then that's not how it's supposed to go. There's obviously different trading strategies. This is just from like a discretionary trader standpoint. If you're like market making, if you're doing other things, like it looks very different. But from a discretionary standpoint, in my opinion, that's the optimal way to look at it.
I agree very much. And you also just need to learn how to win big at a certain point, because that's a skill in itself. Be it sizing up and not babysitting the position too much, or sizing up and actually letting the setup play out as opposed to taking profit at like the first level of, at the first trouble area or whatever else. And so if your entire trading practice is, okay, static risk in and out, static risk in and out, and you never actually train yourself to take higher conviction bets, I just think probabilistically your account is going to bleed out over time, or at least that should be your baseline assumption. You should go into it being like, even if I do nothing, this thing will just start to bleed on its own, And I basically need like a difference maker trade once every N period. So most of it should be, if when you get those types of setups, really fucking lean into them. Other times, if you don't have them, you can poke and prod and trade and get a feel for things, but don't kind of marry anything. It should be like either very high conviction, actively give a shit about this trade, or either full apathy slash light poking. There's nothing worse than taking sort of high conviction bets on setups that don't reflect that in their expectancy, And then the thing is, a lot of the time you get your biggest losses after your biggest wins, right? Like you have like a banging setup and you're like, hell yeah, my balance is up, I'm feeling hot, and you just like really want to trade, and you end up taking something shitty with the same size that you took your actual good setup, and then you're basically back to square one, which is
or even bigger, because now your balance is much bigger and you're like, oh shit. Like I just made I just doubled my trading account because I absolutely fucking hit that trade out of the ballpark. Like I just made so much money. I can just risk like 30% of the gains I made on the next trade. And then it's like a terrible
house money, bro.
yeah, but it's not how it is. It's not how it is. But this trap, I think a lot of people, including myself, fall into. And it's not necessarily like, the thing is like sometimes it's actually warranted. Like if you're actually if you're on a heater and you just have really good intuition about the market, sometimes it makes sense to lean into it, right? But what you have to know is that when to be like, hey, I'm actually just out of it. Like I had a good run, but now it's over, right? Like I think that's the most important skill if you trade like that. Like if you hit a banger and then you're like, oh, I'm actually feeling it, and you keep trading that way, and sometimes that works really, really well. But then you really have to know when to take the exit, because otherwise what you do is you kind of trade yourself into euphoria, so to speak, and then you just start losing your mind and do dumb shit. And I've seen a lot of people, even like more famous ones and more popular ones on crypto Twitter, go through this, where they're like, oh, I'm the god of trading because I hit that trade. And then they're like, they had a trade idea and then they flip. Like one example that I saw lately, and I'm not trying to shit talk the guy, I'm just like, this is just an example. Cole on crypto Twitter, like I don't know his full app, but Cole, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Zoran, of course.
Zoran Cole, yeah, exactly, Zoran. And he was like, he had this idea that Bitcoin was gonna go to 40 something K, and he was very vocal about it. And he was like super, super excited about the trade, took the trade, made a bunch of money. And hats off, right? Like that's cool. But then basically he got into that whole like trading, like I have to do a bunch more and I have to swap positions. And then he actually longed, even though his entire thesis was that the market was going to go down, and he lost a bunch of money on that trade, right? And I think that's kind of like what people do, like they get in their own head of sorts, like they're like, oh, I cannot go wrong. But what he did well, as at least from what I could see, is that he just basically just called it quits afterwards. Because a lot of people, what they do is they just revenge trade a bunch, and then just completely give everything back from the run that they just had. But yeah, this is just like stuff that happens all the time. I think everyone goes through it, and you have to know yourself really well to kind of be able to respond. The easiest way to do it is just by giving yourself very strict rules. But that will also take away some of your edge, but it will prevent you from doing dumb shit. And this is basically where you have to kind of like decide where you want to be, if you want to push it, but also like that can lead, if you don't know yourself well enough, to you just blowing up, or if you want to do like the whole rule focused trading, and then that's very unlikely to blow you up, but there's a good chance that like these big runs that other people have, you will not have. And it's all the balance, and it all depends on what kind of personality type you are, like whether you can hold yourself back, whether you can hold yourself accountable, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm always saying like, hey, just what I do doesn't have to work for you, just because we're just different people, and everyone trades differently and should trade differently based on their personality.
Yeah, I think that's completely well said. And also, nobody gives a shit, because where is the ticker, Don? Why do I care about win streaks and loss streaks and sizing, etc.? If I just buy the right coin early and hold it, the next whiff, all of this discussion becomes redundant.
Yeah.
Although it is, this is the shit at least I find interesting, because the theoretical implications are very interesting, but also the fact, paradoxically, that as interesting as the theory is, you can't really learn any of it until you go through it. That seems to be a recurring theme with trading in general. Another common case is, I'm sure you've seen this and, well, done this, sort of over-indexing a single win or a single loss. Like, you take one win and you're like, oh, I'm feeling hot. The market's in line with me. I know what I'm doing. And then turns out it was just basically a random walk. Some variance handed you a win. And it works the other way around as well. Like, you take a loss and you're like, oh, man, I don't know what's going on. My read is shit. Maybe I should, like, start taking cold plunges every morning. It's like, bro, there's so much fucking variance built into this shit. Don't put too much weight on a single win or a single loss. The only world in which it really starts to matter is if you're oversizing on high frequency garbage, right? Setups that show up every day, every other day, maybe even multiple times a day, and you size up on those, then you're of course going to be inclined to read into the market simply because the impact on your P&L is so fucking high. But if you're sizing appropriately for what you're trading, then most stuff just kind of ends up being noise, right? That's what those flag patterns, those mini consolidations that you talked about in the P&L curve, that's what that is, basically. A lot of the time, you'll be trading noise. Like, you'll hallucinate setups, or it just won't work out, or, just random walk, Brownian motion type of stuff happening in the market, and you kind of have to learn to look through it, essentially, because if you sort of ascribe paramount importance to every single trade you take. Like, you take a random long and you win, you're like, oh, we must be in a bull market, and then you lose it, you're like, oh, never mind, I'm off sync. Like, you can't do that. You'll just get jerked around way too much. And that's part of the benefit of, all the stuff we talk about on the show, like waiting for like really good setups, trading with high proximity to invalidation, trading at high time frame inflection points, because those setups are more likely to carry signal beyond the outcome of the trade itself, right? Like, if I'm doing business at a high time frame support at an extremity, kind of tick, 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 and I buy it and it breaks, that doesn't just, it could just be random Brownian motion, random walk market bullshit. But I think there's an increased probability that, hey, maybe this actually means something beyond the trade itself. Like, ordinarily this would have made money and it ticked all the boxes for what should be a really good bullish setup. But it failed. So what does that mean for the market? And then you can build quite good setups from those types of high conviction ideas failing. But if you spend all your time diddling in the middle, trading at the point of control, trading in the middle of nowhere, the chances that your wins and losses actually mean something, I think that probability is a lot lower. And then if you start ascribing importance to trades that fundamentally don't mean much, then you get lost very fucking quickly.
Yeah, well said.
ETH. The show started again, Don. We took another break.
We didn't even talk about the daily.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, the daily. You were kind of half FUDing it, half not. So we're at 60k again. We memed this level so much on this fucking show, and for good reason.
I should talk, honestly, I should talk 62k, right? Like, my box is like 60.
That's true. Well, the upper cluster is 62k.
Yeah, 61.1 to 62.4, and that's the level that I've been shit talking, and we actually just failed below it, right? Like, because 65 funnily enough held, and that's not even a level on my chart.
Yeah, you've got the daily cluster all the way back, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we've got some daily closes here now. We had a daily, the breakdown day closed thoroughly below it. We had 3 retest days, which kind of closed above the cluster bottom, back below, above, but never really closed through the cluster top. Then you posted a FUD update Twitter post on Friday when we closed through the structure again. And now we're sort of back into it. What are the odds that this is just more range low chop versus there being some sort of breakdown signal? Or like, what's your current view on this thing? I'm guessing you're not buying it.
My current view is that, this is just shit. Like, this is technically like just on the TA level, this is bearish, right? But it's the same argument like we have, and this is really shitty, like on the monthly time frame. You remember the argument I made? Like, hey, we just had a breakout, but it's just not doing anything. It's not.
Yes.
Like, we have the exact inverse of that on the daily chart. Like, yeah, we had a breakdown of that range. Like for me, the range is broken. We're trading below the range right now. But it didn't do anything, which is like bad news for the bears. Like, this is not what you want to see, but also still like, hey, this is a bearish argument. We're right at resistance, right? So this is the worst level to do business at. Like if you're buying 61.5, you might be buying the bearish retest of the range before it just completely teleports down, right? So like this is a really shitty spot to do business in because this retest really shouldn't have happened. But also like, hey, we're trading below the range. That's not good. So like the both bulls and bears are kind of like in a shitty position, in my opinion. Like if you've been bearish from higher, I think it makes sense to kind of maintain that view, at least until the range is reclaimed, and then you can just make up your own mind, like whether you believe that range reclaim is genuine or not. If you're just starting with fresh shorts at 61.5 where we are right now, it's a little bit scary because like, hey, if this is just a false breakdown, which is to me seems quite unlikely just based on the fact that we had one before, but also like why the fuck is it sticking around so long, right? So I'm kind of like in between. There's a reason why I closed my shorts, right? I was like, this is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. In my opinion, it should have just kept on accelerating, and it didn't. It immediately retested, which is you could tell that this was not teleporting down the day it broke down. So I was like, okay, well, this is not what it was supposed to be doing. So I'm just gonna like hop out and kind of reevaluate later. Now it's later, and I'm none the wiser. Like it's actually just like there's conflicting signals here. I think just TA wise, just ignoring everything else, this is still bearish. Just because we did break down, and it depends a little bit on the weekly time frame, right? Like if the weekly closes bad this week, I'm going to expect that this is just a bearish retest. If it closes decent, right? Like if you have a little bit more of a rally, like we've had 1% up move this like today on Sunday, huge. If it does another like I don't know, like another 2 or 3%
calm
today,
down.
that would already be enough to kind of come back into weekly support, right?
Yeah,
and
the
then
time frames at least start to align, right?
Yeah, and then you would have like weekly support holding, and you have a daily kind of reclaim, and then I think you can make a decent argument for being bullish. If that doesn't happen and we close shitty on the weekly time frame, especially if today would turn red again, right? Like weekend moves are usually bullshit, and like lately anyway, like the weekend move just gets retraced on Monday or Tuesday, no matter which direction it goes. But yeah, I would basically not want to like if it keeps going up, I would want to be looking for the bullish side of things, and if it closes poorly on the weekly time frame, I would believe that the bearish signal, because we have both a bullish and a bearish signal here on the daily time frame, and it basically I think it makes sense to believe the one that is going to be confirmed by the weekly.
Up is up, down is down, eh?
Yeah,
classic.
Basically.
It's also quite funny that essentially the monthly bulls have a layup and they're doing fuck all with it, and the daily bears have a layup and they're doing fuck all with it, and the outcome is that we get tortured by the same 60k range low.
Yeah, let's see if the weekly chats can change that.
The weekly chads, yeah. It's also quite funny, that same paradox that I've memed before, that like, you know that meme of the guy trying to pick a button and there's a contradiction between the two? And it's like weekend moves are bullshit is one button, and like I'm waiting for the weekly close is the other button.
Yep.
That shit used to work way better in the past, you know.
I think just generally like how you can look at it is basically like the move that you get on the weekend usually gets retraced during the week,
Okay.
but the close that you get can give you direction beyond that week, right?
Fine, okay.
So basically, like you get like a weekly close, and then the next 2 days might do exactly the opposite of what you think it should be doing, but you still get signal. Just on a higher time frame. So like you have like it's bullshit. Like the weekend move is bullshit for the next few days, but the weekly close is not bullshit for the next few weeks. That's at least how I look at it.
You've just solved the TA dilemma of the century, Don. Come collect your Nobel fucking prize. No, that makes a lot of sense, and it often works that way, right? That the higher time frame extends beyond the counter trend move that's baked in within it. Like when you get a shitty weekly close and then a huge drive on like Monday or Tuesday, those tend to be pretty good fades, that type of stuff. And it even works on lower time frames, right? 4-hour close, 1-hour drive, daily close, 4-hour drive, so on and so forth. There's a lot of interesting stuff that happens around those, rebalancing type mechanics. But yeah, that's the daily. Casual Friday as usual. Not optimistic at support, and that means the market's going to go up. Adjust accordingly. ETH BTC just can't stay interesting for more than 1 week.
Nope.
And that seems to be the recurring theme here. Hasn't really done all too much. I mean, we had that one strong week, and it's been a bit of a holding pattern since then. I think people are really expecting ETH BTC around some sort of ETF news or launch or flows to do like one of those XRP style moves that we talked about, where months of downtrend get wiped out in like a short burst. But this thing's been pretty reluctant to do that, and that hasn't been helped by ETH USD, which essentially has been getting walked down since its ETF approval range, and it even retraced most of the crypto native repositioning candle itself as well. I'm wondering because I don't love the ETH USD chart on anything below the daily. I know you talked about the weekly cluster at 31 to 3200. Is that still the cornerstone of your analysis? If so, I mean, that's a pretty good weekly close, I'm assuming. Are you an ETH bull? Are you an ETF bull? What the fuck's going on here?
I just don't know.
Nice.
Like on
Next.
the like on the E front, like I want to be bullish because it just makes sense to me, but also like price action doesn't really confirm my beliefs that ETH should be doing decent, because it's clearly not. Like the ETH BTC weekly chart is just sad. It's hanging on support. Like it's really struggling to hang on to support, even though everything is kind of stacked in ETH's corner. And then on the ETH USD front, we talked about this last week, and I was like, hey, you at least need to reclaim the previous floor, which is like 3.47 ish on the daily time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And we bearishly retested that and then fucked off, and that's just not a good look. And I think that is still a good line in the sand, low time frame. Like if you want to see momentum shift, like above 3.47, I think that's decent. And then you can kind of extrapolate that on the weekly, because technically, yes, it hit weekly support. But I don't know. This is like the ETH chart is just a shitty one. And honestly, like ETH's just been like so fucking boring, and no one's been using it. Like, have you seen the
gas fees?
That the gas fees are basically like at historic lows, like year long.
Oh yeah,
lows.
last time ETH was like someone had that chart. Like last time gas fees were this low for this long, the price of ETH, it might have been like single digits or something.
It was single digits.
Something absurd.
Yeah, which I mean, you could argue like there's multiple ways to argue for it, like about it. If you're an ETH bull, you're like, hey, all this scaling, all this kind of like shit we've been working on is just kicking in. I think the more truthful answer is that like literally no one's using it, right? Like I think that's generally this cycle, right? Like people are speculating on memes, but no one's using any of the shit in crypto right now. It's just literally it's gambling on memes, or it's nothing at all. Like no one's actually using any of the crypto stuff. And I think ETH has suffered the most from it, because this is just like ETH usually is like it was called the gas, like the oil of the oil of crypto, right? Like you would actually use it for shit, and then it would do stuff and whatever. In the last cycles, this cycle, it's just no one gives a fuck.
It's
Like
the oil of
even
crypto, but Solana is COVID or something.
yeah, I mean something of the sort, right? And it's just, but Solana's not really like besides like what's going on Solana besides meme coin trading, right?
I mean,
Like
what's going on in crypto besides meme coin trading?
yeah, but I mean, isn't that a little bit terrifying?
I don't know.
Like I like to me anyway, like that's a little bit scary. Like give me something that at least has some promise, right? Because I mean, yeah, cool, we're all gonna like the dystopian future thought where all of us are just gonna trade memes against each other for the next 50 years, and the entire world's gonna be ruled by AI, and the only thing we as humans can do is trade fucking the 20th iteration of the dog coin to make ends meet. I mean, that's just fucking like I don't know, like that seems a little bit fucked up, sad to me rather than like exciting. I would rather have something that actually has a little bit of promise, at least like the DeFi stuff. I wasn't the biggest fan and of like a lot of these like VC coins, and like the DeFi stuff took a pretty twisted turn as well.
Sure.
But at least there was some form of promise there. Right now, it's just peak cynicism, and I don't think that does the market and the space any good. Like I don't think that's a good. It's a good mood slash good attitude for an entire space to have, right? Like, how are you gonna attract new people into crypto when it's all just basically like PvP? You buy my meme coin so I can dump it on you, and then make a new meme coin so I can dump it on you again. Like that's just kind of like I don't think that's very attractive long term.
Well, this is what
That's
we do every cycle, right? We essentially get a new form of speculation, and all the activity on whatever chain or ecosystem is speculation. And then we start extrapolating, being like, yeah, it's speculation for now, but look at the amount of users we have. And then imagine we onboard N number of people with this decentralized application. They won't even know it's crypto. Ta-da, onboarding complete. But it never fucking happens, and the speculation dies, and the usage dies as well. We never take that second step of going like, okay, let's like convert all the attention essentially and all these users to something non PvP or financially extractive or speculative or anything else. You know?
yeah, but I mean this cycle we're not even trying.
Yeah.
Like that's my problem with it, right? Like this cycle, like
You'd rather
everyone's
we
like,
pretend
oh,
at least.
I mean, I think like obviously like a lot of it was pretending in the last cycles, but I think there was like a bunch of people that were actually trying, and they were actually like excited about this stuff. And this cycle, like back then, I think there was a chance that something would actually stick. Right now, I don't know what it would be. Like I'm struggling to see it. Like the whole DeFi meme, right? Like as much like as dumb as the whole thing was, right? And I mean, I think the arguments back then were like quite bad as well. But like I at least thought that there was like a 1% chance that someone would come up with something that would actually like just get a bunch of users in and then actually have just like an impact in the real world.
I mean, DeFi had an impact on North Korea's GDP.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they're the kings of crypto now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not necessarily great either.
Hey, that's personal opinion and politics, Don.
No, fair enough, fair enough.
No, I think that's fair. If all you're left with speculation, like really hyper speculation, then I mean that can't last forever. You know.
Yeah, and I mean
that's the whole point of cycles in general.
Yeah, because the thing is, at the end of the day, like in crypto, and this is something that I think we all just accept as the truth. Like 99% of the shit is trash, right? But just make sure that we're not doing just 100% trash, because at that point, like it just all dies, right? Like there has to be at least that 1% where it's just not trash, I think, and I think that's actually quite important. And that whole like pessimistic, oh yeah, everything is a scam anyway, so let's trade memes. That's cool for intra cycle and whatever, but I think it damages the cycle. It damages the space more than it helps anyone.
Like there needs to be something to show for it.
Yes,
know?
and
so
there
basically,
needs
all
to
the
be a chance.
speculation is the cost of getting some sort of progress, like Uniswap,
Yes.
for example, right?
Yes, exactly. I think that's a really good example. Like that whole like on-chain trading that we're doing, that's built on previous fucking scam cycles, right? Like where like 99% of people got fucked. But there was something useful that came out of it. And I'm really, really struggling this time around. But yeah, we'll
find
see.
something
Maybe it's
for you,
still
Don.
coming. Maybe it's still coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're so early, so it's still coming. I think that makes sense. So
Yeah.
ETH, hard to get you excited below 3,400 daily,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I mean, I want to be like, this is the one thing, like ETH I really want to be, but right now, like that is just, and it's the same thing that I said last week. Like this is just not, it's just not it. The way it's trading is just not it. The way the market is behaving is just generally not it. Either it's peak, people are distracted and just not seeing how easy of a trade that is, or it's just like peak complacency and people are holding it because they're like, oh, I'm gonna get bailed out by the ETF.
Right.
And I really cannot tell. I think both seem really likely. Where it's like, hey, we're getting an ETF, so this thing should go up, like just makes sense. Or it's like, hey, this whole ETF is just gonna top the market on like at least the BTC pairs, and then everything is gonna nosedive. I think both seem like decent arguments to make. And I need a little bit of indication,
Right.
at least a little bit from the market to tell me which one is the actual real one. And I mean, I'm too dumb to figure it out before I get that.
I mean, both
That
seem
nod
pretty
from the
plausible,
market.
right? But like looking at the price action doesn't, you wouldn't be able to tell that this thing is trading with like an imminent high stakes
Yeah, it's
catalyst
fucking
coming up.
wild.
Like you look at BTC around the its ETF life cycle. Just looking at that price action, basically went from 16k to 70k, right? Or like 16 to 45 at least. And then we got ETF clarity, and then we had round two, which is like speculative flows, or like extrapolating or inferring what the flows would be, and then actual flows. It's like 16 to 45 part one, 45 to 70 part two, roughly, right?
Yep.
Whereas for ETH, I mean, we have one daily candle. that's it. It's the 20th of May, and then everything after the 20th of May, and it's been going in the wrong direction. Realistically,
I mean, we basically need the intern again. Do you remember the
Cointelegraph intern?
Cointelegram intern doing that tweet that showed the market that a bunch of people were
Oh my god, you were getting
positioned.
so clowned for that take. Do you remember?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's how it usually is. I mean, this is like that was such a good take.
It was a good take. I'll give you that.
It was like, because I have like, I mean, quote unquote good takes that are just retarded, but they work out, right? Because I'm just like, I mean, it's like where I'm like, this is not a good argument, but I think this is how it's gonna play out, and it plays out, right? And I'm like, oh, this was a good take, whatever. But I think like that was a smart take, right? A rare smart take from me, where I was like, hey, this is just a clear showing of hands, and people are just so out of position, right? And yeah, I got clowned for it, but that's just how it is. But yeah,
cases.
Something like that we need. And the problem is, I think if we got it, like if we got a tweet like that for ETH, like, hey, the ETH ETF is live right now, I think ETH BTC would go up 2% and then full retrace. That's kind of how the market feels like to me, which is why, even though I want to be bullish, I'm just kind of like indifferent right now.
Like the apathy is insane, because we had like good news around the S1 approval form, whatever shit, or like progress on that front. Market doesn't care. We had the SEC like suing consensus and stuff. Market doesn't really care, like in the grand scheme. It's just like immune to attention, essentially, as far as ETH goes. And I also think a lot of people, like logically, are very much far down the risk curve rabbit hole, where they're like, if this is good for Bitcoin, I can just like take 8 leaps down and assume it's going to be good for my meme coin, and that's what I've been trading anyway, so let me just keep trading that. Why do I care? Like, okay, if this is good news and the market's going to go up, if ETH goes up like 5-10%, my meme coin will go up 50 to 100%. So like, why would I speculate on ETH, essentially?
Yeah, which I think is a fair take. It's also what's holding the market back. I think we're trading much higher if that wasn't the case. But obviously everyone's looking out for themselves, right? So why the fuck would you? Because that's kind of how it has been playing out, right? Like the market is strong, the meme coins do better than the market. The market is weak, the meme coins get absolutely dominated. Like, I mean, a lot of these meme coins actually went down like 90%.
Yes.
And then they bounced, like Bitcoin bounced, like put that candle in like a week ago-ish. and a lot of the meme coins are up like 200%. It's just that they're still down like 60, but yeah, they just died so much that they can bounce a lot. So people are buying meme coins instead of Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's missing a bit, and then people are seeing, hey, Bitcoin's missing a bit, even though like it just liquidated a bunch of fools. So maybe it's still bearish. Then that's kind of like, I think that's the biggest problem crypto has, is that you can just have infinite other things where your money can flow to.
Yes.
And
Especially this cycle. Oh my god! Like,
yeah,
in
I mean, you
in the
could,
past, it was like if you're trading on whatever's listed on a centralized exchange. Like that's it.
yeah.
And that's part of the reason we didn't have this mega dispersion that we do now, because there were only like a few exchanges and they all had very similar listings, and it wasn't that many
Yeah,
compared to
and
now.
everyone is trading the stuff that is doing the most volume, basically. That
Absolutely.
was how it was, yeah.
Whereas now it's
And
like
now
you can
it's
create
not.
any amount of tokens on any chain out of thin air,
Yeah.
essentially.
And that's all money that goes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't flow into anything
It's
else.
money.
And I
It's
think,
money competition. It's attention competition as well, right? Like mind share
yeah.
and shit. Like it's tough out here. Like lifting
And
the ask on BTC and ETH is a thankless job, it seems.
yeah. And I think that another thing is, and it's just straight up, like we have these communities now that are just like shit talking others, right? Like, for example, the Solana people, I think they're the most, they're the most active in this. They're constantly shit talking ETH, right? Like, and I think what that is doing is basically it's pulling the entire market down, right? Like, let's say you're a new guy in crypto and you just kind of see how like the biggest coins are just kind of like attacking each other. And the reason why I'm not saying the ETH people are attacking Solana is because, I mean, Vitalik literally bottom tweeted Solana, right? It was like, hey, Solana is great. I hope they're gonna come like bounce back. And that was like the pico bottom of Solana, at like whatever below $10. And now ETH's been going down pretty much for infinite amounts of time, and the other like the Solana people didn't really do the same for ETH. But anyway, like we basically have like a bunch of people in crypto now FUDing crypto, right? Which is really funny because they're so tribalized now that it's not crypto versus the world anymore. It's crypto against crypto. And I think that's also not really helping the whole space. Like, I think that's basically you have a bunch of people that professionally FUD other coins, each other, whatever, and it's not doing anyone a favor.
Yeah, the Sol ETH stuff's interesting because ETH heads were the ones mega dunking on Solana, like on the way up, but also around the FTX implosion, being like, lol, this thing's never coming back. You know, told you ETH was the dominant layer one. This is just like fraud all along. And then obviously Solana price action, that gives you a lot of ammo. When you see ETH BTC going to shit and Solana just having all the users and really good price action on the coin itself. And so I don't know how much of that is fresh Sol people just talking shit to ETH for the sake of it versus taking their revenge for getting shit talked at the lows. But in any case, it kind of lands you in the same neighborhood, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like the ETH maxis are fucking retards, right? Like, yeah. I'm not like and people kind of like misunderstand me when they're like, hey, Don just fucking hates Solana and loves ETH. Like, I think like the people besides Vitalik and like a few other people at ETH, I think at least most of the Twitter people that are ETH maxis are completely and utterly like just dumb people. Like, I really dislike them, and I think the same is true for the Solana people. To be quite honest, like the maxis on that is just like so stupid to listen to.
I mean, you hate everyone basically.
I mean, I think the people that are too extreme in their views are just boring people. And
We're back to the radical centrist, my favorite version of the duck.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like cyclical, right? Like you have like ETH go up for a while, and you have Solana go up for a while, and you have ETH go up for a while, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And like now I see the Solana people say like, hey, ETH is dead because the transactions are so cheap. But we had the Solana people say, hey, why are you using ETH? Solana transactions are so cheap. Like, it's just all so fucking like it's also tiresome to me. I think all of these arguments are kind of shitty. But yeah, it's a back and forth. And at the end of the day, I don't think the maxi take is helping anyone, especially if you keep dunking on the other side, because basically just to anyone outside of crypto, it just looks like we're all a bunch of clowns, which we are, to be fair.
Well, exactly. It's accurate, at least. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about the Sol TA side of things?
Yeah, we can.
That's
I mean,
another thread you've been periodically updating. So
yeah, I mean, Solana is interesting.
weekly, 135.
The weekly. I mean, I talked about the Solana trade, right, from 180, 170-ish to just 100 or 70 or whatever. I ended up like closing my Solana trade around 135. Basically that the range low, the previous range low from September 21 or from March 2022. I have like a support level at 135. That's where I closed. But I honestly think, like, if you just look at this impartial and you don't really care about any of the tech, it's currently bearishly retesting resistance. Which the same argument applies as earlier, right? Like, why the fuck is it bearishly retesting immediately after breaking down? Really shouldn't do that. But it is still trading below resistance. And I think that resistance is basically the April candle, the 29th of April, 2024, lowest close, that green candle. And that's kind of what the resistance Solana is dealing with that we have. And I think if Bitcoin shows further weakness, I think there's a good chance that this is a bearish retest and then Solana keeps going lower. If Bitcoin is actually if Bitcoin already put the bottom in, it's probably a false breakdown and then Solana is probably going to go higher. So it depends a lot on Bitcoin, but right now it's a bearish retest to me. And the setup is technically still in play, right? Like short 170. The stop loss would still be like around there, like 170, and the target would be like 100 or $70. I think that's like a really good setup still. I personally just closed it because it was like 135 is enough for me. But if it closes, like if we have shitty price action in the next couple hours, next 10 hours, like if Bitcoin nukes, for example, like erases today's gain, I could see Solana USD close below 135 even. And I think at that point it would be clearly bearish, and I think then you would get expansion really quickly. So it depends on how today goes, and it depends on how the weekly Bitcoin charts close. And then I think there could be an interesting play on Solana again on the short side. And like I said, if Bitcoin closes well, I think it's probably a decent long again. So it depends.
So Bitcoin resolution waiting room, weekly close, kind of
Yeah,
shitty.
If Bitcoin does well, Solana is going to do well, but Solana looks worse right now than Bitcoin does, in my opinion. Like on a high time frame basis, basically Solana is doing Solana had the breakdown last week.
Yes.
Bitcoin is technically having it right now, and
So
Solana is retesting. Solana is bearishly retesting, which is bearish, but like I said, the immediate retests are not the best signal in the world.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense. It's consistent. And also, it was very strange when, you put out that tweet, which got a ton of engagement, which is also very telling, being like, I closed my shorts or whatever, right? And then still in follow-up charts and tweets, I think people were clowning you on your Solana take.
They were like, Solana is up a shitload, you're such a retard. And I literally closed the bottom and I'm like, I don't understand how this
You just can't win at this point, yeah.
No.
I think you basically become entrenched as an archetype in someone's head, and whenever they need to shadow box an invisible counterparty, it kind of defaults to you. It's kind of just like capo on the way up, right?
Yeah.
Like even if you didn't have a position on, they kind of just became the pejorative term for someone on the other side of the trade, and you basically took that mantle from him as the sort of go-to bear.
Well, fair enough.
You
whatever.
keep great company, Don.
Yeah.
Any other memes or centralized exchange coins or high caps or majors that you want to discuss?
I mean, I was shorting with, right? And that was quite nice. And that had a really big bounce.
That's a huge bounce, yeah.
And I think now it's actually worth shorting again. I'm probably not going to do it. And if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to do it, I'm definitely not going to do it publicly because that's just fucking miserable. But I think that's pretty much that's a law of signal in itself. The fact that I wouldn't want to share it because I usually really don't care. But I mean, I think that would just literally ruin Twitter for me, even more than it is
fully
right
unusable.
which tells you a lot about the market participants, in my opinion. So it's technically bearishly retesting as well, right? So we have like a bunch of bearish retests on a bunch of coins. Bitcoin, like I said, looking the best out of like all of them. But if that turns, like I said, on the daily time frame, it's technically bearish. If that turns, I think a lot of these will go to shit, like much faster than Bitcoin will. But yeah, I think with being bearish here and then like let's say you're a whiff bull, right? And you caught the bounce, makes sense to be bearish here, and then flip bullish if the range is reclaimed like above 2.2, 2.3. I think at that point, it's much more likely that you're gonna get positive price action. Right now, it's much more likely that you're actually just gonna get negative price action. So on the whiff side of things, like that's not looking too great, but it was a really good bounce. I mean, that's actually a huge bounce. Like at the from bottom to high, it was 50%, but also it basically went to zero, right? Like in a straight line.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? You'll remember how there's like an evolution how people talk about whiff. It's like, oh, this is by far the strongest coin, and it's like, okay, it's consolidating while everything is going down. It's like, okay, it pumped again and still in the same range. And then the range breaks down. It's like, well, it's down less than everything else. And then the breakdown follows through and it bounces. And it's like, well, the bounce is harder than everything else. It's like, wait, we've just shifted goalposts from this is the strongest thing and it's going up. It's going to infinity. Now now we're praising it for bouncing so hard after breaking down. You know?
Yeah.
Like those are quite different arguments. And also one argument you're making at $4, the other one you're making from $1.50. Like, surely that has to matter at some point.
Yeah, I genuinely think just looking at this, unbiased, like I said, I don't have a position right now. Like that's a terrible looking chart. And it will look much better above 2.2, 2.3. So like when you have that combination, right, like it's clearly bearish. It's had one of the most bearish moves to the downside across the market from the liquid stuff, right? Like obviously, like there was memes that went down 90%, but they were not really liquid, right? Like whiff is actually tradable on Binance, it's tradable on Bybit, it's traded. You can trade it anywhere.
Yes.
And for a coin that is traded everywhere to go down 60% in a straight line in like in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That's actually like just an insane move to the downside. And I would expect this to be trend setting. And if you want to be bullish, and I'm really not opposed, right? I'm not in my hater mode right now. I think it just makes so much more sense on a range reclaim and not on a bearish range retest.
And you're not asking for a lot, right? It's like $2 at the moment, $2.20, $2.30 for something that bounced 50%. And given the market cap got repriced a fair bit as well. Yeah. From $5 down to $1.50. That's not asking for a lot, like a 20-30% rally on this thing. And at least at that point, you've got a very clear invalidation, right? Like if you're buying this here, unless you want to go for an invalidation of like the lows, the lows, and go for like some mega swing trade if it sets an all-time high. I mean, that's not a trade at that point. At least I don't think of it as a trade. You know,
no, you lose 50% if you get invalidated. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, this is just getting into really weird territory. But at least if you've got like above 220, you can use the pre-reclaim low as your invalidation, and at that point, even if you get to the middle of the range, then that's a pretty fucking good trade, as opposed to going for like, you know, Twitter engagement chart risk reward, where it's like the low, then new all-time high. Like, I don't know, that's not trading anymore in my mind. That's kind of reflecting your investor mindset using an inappropriate tool. But yeah, I agree. 220 is like super technical, and this thing still, even on the way down, has been pretty technical. You know, So I think that's an additional reason to put some stock into the TA side of things. But yeah, it's quite quick progression, to be honest, from $4-5 down to $1.50. But once this thing goes up on the sphere, Don, that's when you'll see the ask side get obliterated.
Oh, but don't ask Ansem about it, otherwise he's gonna block you.
Why is that?
Oh, he blocks everyone that asks him about it.
No, literally. Come on.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding. Like everyone that asks him is getting blocked.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, have to try it for shits and giggles.
I'm not implicating that he's not gonna put it on the sphere, right? But it is a little bit of an odd one.
I mean, I'd be surprised if the sphere let you have crypto promos.
They don't. they clearly say that they don't. As far like
But what if it's not
I've
a
talked
crypto
with people.
promo? It's just a picture of a dog, and I mean, is there some
Yeah.
gray area? I don't know.
I mean, maybe you could trick them into it, but I don't think
Right.
that falls for it. No, I have been told, and I mean, I to be 100% transparent, I didn't do my own research, but I have been told by people that they actually just really don't like, they don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
So maybe that's why it's taking so long. They're trying to convince them. He's trying to onboard some celebrities to make sure that WIF can get on the. You just need an army of 200 celebrities that vouch for you that dog needs to be on the sphere.
Right.
Maybe then it goes up. I don't know, but anyway, if you're a smaller account and you ask him, you're gonna get blocked more likely than not.
Well, it's
Is what
still
it
a
is.
potential catalyst, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
that Solana that was raised for it is locked sol, hopefully. So more supply of the market is bullish. I can twist this all day, bro.
Didn't he convert it into USDT or USDC? I don't remember.
Oh well, even better.
Yeah. There's no sell pressure on that one.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I mean, I don't fucking know. This whole thing is just fucking wild to me.
Yeah, but the sphere meme is a good meme.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good meme,
Yeah.
and I mean, if it goes up on the sphere, I think that would lead to, like, funny enough, that would lead to a little bit of an upside move.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not hating. If it goes up, cool. If it doesn't, I think that's a little bit not that great.
That said, if you ate
people
like a
get refunded.
60% drawdown, being like, "Well, it's going on the sphere," that's tough, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if it goes on the sphere while the market is still not great, right? Like, let's say Bitcoin keeps trading like this. If it goes on the sphere, I don't think that would change much of the high time frame direction, right? Like, if you look on the WIF chart, we had a high at 4.8 ish.
Yeah.
Then we had a high at 4.2 ish. Then we had a high at 3.8, and then it disappeared, right? So there's like a clear downtrend going on, and we actually also just lost the range, the prior range. So even if you get like a catalyst like that, it's very likely that would peter out around like 2.7-ish, I think, like mid-range 2.6.
Right.
And if the market doesn't support it, I think that would be the new lower high set, basically. And I honestly don't think it's gonna be on the sphere. And the funny thing is, like, this is the meme coin Boden, right? Like, it's the one that was shilled everywhere on
talking
CT.
this one, Don.
Because it's so fucking dumb. Like, the reason why I find it so dumb, right? And I think this is what the Boden people are now realizing, is basically it's a coin to make fun of Biden, right? But it is very reliant on Biden, like, being, like, having mind share, right? So if you fucking hate Biden and that's why you're buying that coin, you're basically, like, if you're not using it as a hedge that Biden might win, like, this coin is going to go to zero if Biden gets replaced, right? Like, why the fuck would it be relevant at all? So basically, you're kind of like, you're taking a dumb trade. Like, you're basically shorting the market when you want to be long, or the other way around. It just puts you in a shitty situation. Anyway, don't really care about the price of that coin, whatever. But now I've rambled so much that I actually forgot my whole point, which does happen. Anyway, that coin went down like 90%, 95%
Right.
now. Because it's just so fucking dumb.
This is the most coherent train of thought you've had on this show, to be fair.
Oh yeah. But anyway, like I've had
anyway, fuck with.
No, but the Bowden thing, like, I had a bunch of people in my comments being like, "Hey, bottom signal, bottom signal, bottom signal."
Oh yeah.
And it just kept on fucking going down. And this is not even one that I don't think you can show it. It's not really like.
I think so. I think it's.
I don't have anything to.
Yeah,
I don't have anything to do with this. And I honestly think, like, this shows, like, that the moment the meme runs out of runway, it just disappears, right? Because it's not like the Bowden holders, like there was big drama or something. It was just like the meme just ran out of steam. And it just disappeared. And I think this is kind of the risk that you have on all of these meme coins. The moment the meme is not memeing anymore, you're kind of like, you're dead in the water. And I think that's kind of what happened with Bowden. Wasn't my original point, but anyway, here we are.
Found a way to FUD it anyway.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's whiff. I don't personally have anything cooking on the watch list side of things. Not super interested at the moment. And also, to be
No.
honest, apart from the last, just for full transparency's sake, the last leg from the mid range to the range low on BTC, I was plugged into the market essentially. But that move aside, my read on the 60k range in general has been kind of shitty. And even the setups that have come have been very like short-lived. Like I played a mid-range bounce and held it for like a day and a half and was like, fuck this
Yeah,
thing.
I get it.
And then on the way down from mid-range to range low, caught like a chunk of it, but not like the final expansion. It's just been a bit like the kind of fucking low conviction poking and prodding that we spoke about earlier. That's basically been me in this consolidation.
I
I didn't
think
feel
it's
terrible
because
about it, but it's just how it is.
yeah, I think it's basically because you can make really good arguments both ways, and that just makes it so fucking difficult to hold on to positions.
Yeah.
Because you can make the argument like, hey, this is just like a consolidation before the next
Yeah,
expansion,
monthly still
whatever.
bullish.
Yeah, like I mean, we never had like an all-time high breakout that didn't lead to a massive move, all that kind of thing, blah blah blah. But you can also make the like very comfortably make the argument that the cycle is just generally over now, because like at every single cycle top in the last, I mean, how many years is it now? 7, 8 years. That we've been full timing this thing, right? The moment the celebrities came on, and the moment like these like a chain got so hot that it basically broke, like the main chain broke, right? Like Solana was basically unusable for a while. And people are going to argue with me what that means, but like I mean, when you have a bunch of
It's not a failed
transactions,
transaction. Yeah.
yeah, then I mean, in my opinion, that is the chain breaking. Whenever that has happened, right? Like the cycles just ended afterwards, like straight up, like it's over. And then so we have this kind of weird situation where price action isn't really confirming either or, and you can have like you look at prior cycles, and you can even from that information you can both make the bullish and the bearish argument. Like, hey, never has this happened before that we like double top and then just have the cycle end. And then you can make the argument, hey, never have went up after a bunch of grifters have moved in and kind of like sabotaged the cycle, took liquidity out of it, all that kind of shit. So we're kind of in this situation where the moment you short and the market like moves a little bit down and then moves up again, you're like, oh fuck, like these arguments are so good, I just don't want to hold. And then the opposite is true as well, right? Like the moment it goes against you in any case, you just start believing the other
so
side.
True. I feel like that's very applicable with ETH as well. Like the second you're in ETH short, you're like this piece of shit mid curve trades, BTC it's on the ropes, and then it goes up 2%. You're like, oh my god, I'm short into an ETF. What the fuck am I doing?
Like literally, that's the problem. Yeah, like, and I think that's what the entire market struggles with. Like, I think that's like just generally every single market participant is kind of like has this in their head. Because there's clear and obvious cycle top indicators, but also clear and obvious reasons for this to keep going. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. This weekly close is going to be an interesting one. For me, I'm taking pleasure in FUDing 60k again. I think there's a chance it bounces again, even back to 64 or something. I think it would make a lower high and then come back to 60k again. I think the more like the closest comparison that you can make is the 6k comparison where we kept bouncing until we didn't.
Okay, so we're going to 30k if we extend the analogy, Don.
I think that was like the reason why it went so low was because of the whole like you had a war going on between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and people were actually not entirely sure which one would win, and then you had like a bunch of people basically freak out more than they should have, unless something like that happens again, which I just don't think we have anything unless. You can make the argument that the ETF, like if it starts breaking down, people start freaking out because they thought that a breakdown would be impossible because of the ETF, right? Like you can find narratives,
halving, post halving price action historically, another bit of hope, like.
But I don't think it's like you can. I think that was extraordinary, like an extraordinary deep dip back then, and I don't think that's necessarily going to happen again. But I think that's kind of the environment we're trading in right now, like 6k ish. I think that's the closest that I, in my head anyway, like I put them very close together, and then we'll see if that's actually accurate or not. If we start making a new high, that would invalidate that idea. And if the price action of anything in this market actually starts picking up again, because I cannot remember the last time and like the entire market was so shit at such a high price. Like it's just never happened. Like usually like the market turns shit after like a 50% down move or something, like depths of the bear market, and then it keeps going down, right? Like just because the market is shit doesn't mean the bottom's in. Usually it keeps going down for a while. But this is the first time that we're essentially at highs and the market is shit and everyone's losing their minds and everyone's just kind of full tilt trading. Never
it's a
seen that
telltale
before.
sign of positioning, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were remotely well exposed to like BTC, Solana, etc. for the last year, and you're eating some drawdown, you're not going to feel, that's not going to crush your brain. But if you were shorting on the way up or rotating late or whatever else, and then you fucking bought like meme coins at the top and got wiped out, etc., then whatever, the market being high, if you're all in Bowden, you don't feel that.
No.
That becomes very hard to relate to. So yeah, listen, maybe we can get fucking Jason Derulo on one of these casual Fridays, ask him what he thinks about the daily RSI or something.
Dude, this whole thing is so fucking wild.
Fuck these
I mean,
celebrities.
everyone is going to jail after the cycle, no? Like, what is this? Like, back in the day, there were at least like they were doing new thing, like the ICO people, right? Like it's a new thing, and then they kind of have like the out of like, hey, we just didn't know. But with these celeb coins, like we had these in prior cycles, right? And people have gotten fined for it, and for some reason, like this doesn't matter. Like people don't care.
Bro, if you're the SEC case agent having to build the case, you're like licking your fucking lips at this point. It's like, this can't name the coin after himself. Like, he's fucking showed up to the police station with handcuffs, and like a full video testimony and admission.
Yeah, he literally talks about like, hey, the first goal is 100 million, then it's a billion, whatever. And I'm like, dude, like I couldn't give less of a fuck about you, but how can you be so stupid?
It's like, please take some of the money that you made from sniping this thing on other poorly bundled wallets and get a lawyer, right? It's like probably the highest legit ROI investment you can make at this point.
I wonder if they know if they're like legit that dumb. Like I just don't get
I think they might legit be that dumb. Either that dumb or that short-sighted. Like whoever's pulling the strings is just like, hey bro, you can make a few 100K. They're like, yo, holy shit, for real? And that's it.
Yeah.
These aren't thinking people. You got to stop giving them the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
Just like we discussed on the other Casual Fridays. Like, should we give celebrities the benefit of the doubt? I think the answer is a resounding no. I think you're insane if you try to argue otherwise. That doesn't mean they can't become net positive actors. But I think because of the fair or unfair, the sins of your peers, other celebrities, you have a burden of proof to satisfy. But I certainly disagree with going to the other extreme of like actively fucking holding these people's hands and trying to onboard them. And it's pretty clear what the pattern is anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a playbook now. Did you see like where they start talking about which meme coin should I buy?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cringe. Like now it's I don't know.
It's so telegraphed.
Yeah. There's literally like you can tell there's a playbook.
Yeah.
And they're like playing off of Ansem now too. And I mean I don't know if he's involved or not. Probably not. But like if he's not, they're playing him like a fiddle. And if he is, I mean fair enough. Like oof. But yeah, it's just fucking wild. Like this whole thing is just the craziest shit ever to me. And that it got accepted for a while. Now everyone's hating on it for good reason, right? But
yeah.
It was a thing for a while. And even the big ones like Mother and Daddy or whatever, the Tate coin and the
Iggy Azalea,
yeah. Like I mean they're down like a shitload, and those are the ones that are actually like
those are the ones as usual that people were using as counter arguments,
Yep.
Like, celebrity coins dog shit. What about this? It's like, first of all, fuck you, you're stupid. Second of all, the exception does not make the rule. Thirdly, it's been 2 weeks. Would you like to revisit your argument? Like, it's so pathetic.
Yeah. I mean, Mother's down 73% from the high right now.
Just like BTC, bro, right?
Almost. But yeah, we'll see how this ages. Maybe we're just misreading the meta, and this is how it's gonna be in the future.
Yeah.
And these coins are gonna be the big thing that changed the world.
Or they're just like the altcoins and moats of any other cycle. Great while they're there, then they disappear because we come up with something else. I'm
more
in that
likely.
camp personally.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, me too. Yeah,
Are
I think
you?
only really dumb people are in the other camp, or like very very like just naive people. I
Right.
think. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear what's been happening. I think, and the people that get these people into crypto to start coins seem like
We're not sending our
extractive
best.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look, if the first thing you do when you enter a space, like, let me just start a coin and pocket a few 100K off the bat, then forgive me for questioning your intentions and proclivity towards longevity, you know? Like,
yeah.
it's
But I
pretty
think that
clear.
argument, basically, the market has made it for us because like 99% of those coins are at zero, and even the ones that, like you said, were used as
Yes.
good examples are basically at zero too.
Yeah. But this is how this altcoin discussions always go. It's like, hey, here's a broad principle, and then some cunt with a, a cultish profile picture comes out and says, hey, but what about X? It's like, I wonder what you think you're achieving with that response. Like, I'd love for you
Yeah.
to sit down and talk me through it, you know? Like,
yeah. But I mean, it's easy that way.
it's easy that way, yeah. Should we wrap up, Don?
Yeah, we should.
That's all from us. No news this week because we rambled our way through, I don't know, pontifications about position sizing and edge and fees, etc. Hopefully that was helpful to someone. Leave a like on this video. We'd appreciate it. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this episode as well. Thank you to Woo for supporting the show. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.